As chairman of the JCNP, to what extent do you feel that you are constantly trying to maintain a balance between the competitive nature of Junkanoo groups and the parades and what is good for the development of Junkanoo?
It,
Are they the same thing? Is there a pull that you have to constantly balance? Tell me about that.
absolutely. It's something that I have to constantly. It's a fine line, Aline, that I constantly have to struggle to walk and balance. It's something that we struggle with as a
Mhm.
community. The competitive aspect of Junkanoo has always been good. It's what drives us, right? We love
Mhm.
our group and celebrate our group. But that competitive, what I found is that competitive edge, that drive, that need to win and compete, has stagnated our growth, the growth and development of our parades in Junkanoo. Because for a long time, as Junkanoo, as a community, we were blinded by just that competition. And so Junkanoo to us was winning. And so we are starting to see some of the effects of that. We see it in the amount of persons that can build quality Junkanoo costumes. We see that
Mhm.
in the amount of persons that are still die-hard or passionate participants of Junkanoo. We have allowed that competition to fester so much and to dominate us so much that it is really stagnated our groups. I personally believe that our drive and our focus so much on competition has stagnated us about 25 years in development and growth. And so we're still having these challenges now of funding. We're still having these battles now with our partners in government about the ownership of these parades. We still have persons in government and public who don't understand the true cost of these parades and what it really takes to put on these parades. We still have Junkanooers who don't understand what it takes to put on these parades. And so the competitive side of it and development side of it, it is a huge challenge. But Aline, it's something that I think we all as Junkanoo as community have to find and sit down and plan out a national plan as it
Yeah.
relates the national development plan as it
Yeah.
relates to Junkanoo. And
Yeah.
we have to learn how to separate the competitive side aspect of Junkanoo from the development aspect of Junkanoo because we are in danger. I know it doesn't seem like it. We all love it. But Junkanoo is we are in danger. Um,
You know what time it is. Once you head over to blow. Good morning, good morning. Welcome to Junkanoo 242. You're tuned in to the longest running cultural show in the Bahamas that talks everything culture, but especially highlighting Junkanoo. Good morning to everybody in our family of islands, everybody that's listening to us on the radio and tuned in live on Facebook. Good morning to you guys. Good morning, Arlene. How are you doing?
Good morning. What's going on?
I hold the clouds back. You got one more dry Saturday. That's all. You got one more. I can't promise you nothing else after this.
Boy, it hoodie though.
I think that means it could be cool while the contact drying.
Okay, all right, all right, all right. We'll take your word for it because, boy, it's time to go.
Yes, 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 yes. We got another exciting show that is lined up, and our guest has a short time with us. So let's
Mhm.
run straight to it. Arlene, can you get us started with our prayer, please?
Absolutely. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, for the gift of life, we give you thanks. For our nation, we pray for peace, progress, prosperity, and principle, recovery, and restoration. And for ourselves, we pray for wisdom to use your gifts wisely, especially the gift of Junkanoo, so that we may honor you, serve your people, build better communities, a better Bahamas, and a better world. Amen.
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 Proud to be Bahamian.
Give it to me
Well,
straight.
man, Ali and I wake up and it was Saturday, just like that. I, I, do
Not
we,
to
do we?
talk about the end of September just like that.
Man, don't say that, man. And I ain't got my partner yet, so I, you know, I can't be like Bastian. He ain't ready till December
Yeah,
23rd.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
yes, but time is flying. Time is flying. This week has just been a quick week. It's been a quick week. Things are flying by and all from all different directions and from my
Mhm.
head.
Mhm.
Have me busy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we are keeping the first part of our show short this morning because our very special guest is here for a limited time. And we can pick his mouth and pick his brains, and we want to get to the discussion as quickly as we can. And so, please Stay with us. We are running to our first break and we'll be right back.
Ministry of Social Services and Urban Development, in conjunction with the National Emergency Agency, presents the 2022 official hurricane shelters for the islands of the Bahamas. Maguana, St. James Native Baptist Church, Abrahams Bay, Betsy Bay Community Center, Betsy Bay. Maguana Comprehensive K School, Pirates Well. The Ministry of Social Services and Urban Development, in conjunction with the National Emergency Agency, presents the 2022 official hurricane shelters for the islands of the Bahamas. Ragged Island, Holy Innocents Anglican Church, Junkanoo. The Ministry of Social Services and Urban Development, in conjunction with the National Emergency Agency, presents the 2022 official hurricane shelters for the islands of the Bahamas. Inagua, New Life Seventh-day Adventist Church, Matthew Town. St. Philip's Anglican Community Center, Matthew Town. Zion Baptist Church, Matthew Town. The Ministry of Social Services and Urban Development, in conjunction with the National Emergency Agency, presents the 2022 official hurricane shelters for the islands of the Bahamas. Acklands Community Center, Spring Point.
From the Junkanoo archives on the Junkanoo timeline, the year was 2002. Minister Neville Wisdom introduced the 12 Days of Christmas. And as a part of this new initiative, for the first time, the Junior Junkanoo Parade was held on Cable Beach, another exciting notch on the Junkanoo timeline.
Oh, I remember that. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. The whistle blow. We are lined up and we're ready for this segment of our show. This is the rollover. Now, this morning, we are in week 3 of our Back to Bay series. We heading back to Bay. 2 weeks ago, we officially launched the Junkanoo season 2022-2023. And this week, we continue our discussion on what to expect this season. We are delighted to welcome back the chairman of the JCNP as our special guest, Mr. Dion Miller. Chairman, good morning.
Good morning, Arlene. Good morning, Darren Bastian and Darren Farrington. Good morning, Bahamas. Good morning, Junkanoos.
Man, it's great to see you. All's well. I thought you were smoking out to the royal funeral.
What ought to be something if we could have put the queen down with a nice Junkanoo rush, eh?
Listen here, just make sure none of your member groups show up on Bay Street reenacting that funeral. I would be very upset.
Oh, boy.
Oh, we love to copy. Oh, Lord. Anyhow, let's stay focused because your time is tight. It's wonderful to have you here, and we are so grateful that you have taken the time to come back so that we can finish what was an extremely informative conversation last week. So let's start at the very beginning. Just in a nutshell, I want you to recap for us what you told us last week for those persons who may not have had an opportunity to listen. Recap for us those points that you made about what is different this year.
Yeah, so once again, good morning, Bahamas. Good morning, Junkanoos. So the administrative portion of the JCNP is just about winding up. Our rules are set in principle. They have been ratified. The only thing left to do is for us to review and adjust some standard operating procedures in regards to the parade management team. In
Okay.
regards to changes this year, the major change or the one significant change to the parades this year would be that the fact that the category B groups will not be required to bring a step down or a lead costume. So that is
Okay.
the one significant change.
All right.
Another change that persons can expect this year or will see this year is in regards to the eligibility purposes for the parade in general. And
Mm-hmm.
so a decision has been made to remove DQ or disqualification
Mm-hmm.
from the parade, and instead of disqualification, a penalty point system has been put instead of the disqualification. So, for example, one of the requirements in the past, or eligibility requirements rather, is that every group should have a banner with a group number on it, being displayed in a prominent position on the parade. So if a group did not bring that banner, that group would be deemed disqualified. So they're DQ. This year, instead of disqualifying the group, let's say that group don't bring that same banner, the group would receive a 10-point penalty instead. And so that's another significant change that we will see in the parade this year. In regards to the parade aftermath, we are in the process of finalizing improvements or updates to the IRC and the whole protest process of the parades. So in the
Mm-hmm.
past, groups, once they would have lodged a protest for any particular penalty or any particular reason, there was a process that after the parades, there would be an IRC hearing that will take place nearer to the end of January, and all of that stuff, all of that adjudication before the parade could be deemed final. What we're doing this year is that those issues will be dealt with live on the parades. And so, for example, if a group, let's say the Foxhill Congos, is on Bay Street performing, and the Foxhill Congos receive an obstruction penalty on Bay Street, immediately after the Foxhill Congos or any group finishes that Bay Street lap, they will have the ability now to go through Elizabeth Avenue at a secure designated site where there will be IRC reps, where the IRC and the Foxhill Congos and the PMT can adjudicate that penalty. When I mean adjudicate, means that we will review it. If it is a valid penalty and that the Foxhill Congos did obstruct the parade, then that penalty would stand. If there is some error or something that occurred, the penalty can be withdrawn and they can move on. And so groups will have the ability to adjudicate these errors or these perceived errors or penalties right there live in the moment, which means that after the parade is done, within 48 hours, the parade, after an internal audit of the scores, the parades will be deemed official. And so we are trying to make those improvements. We are on the last leg of those improvements, and we are ready to go. So those are the significant changes that you will see in the parade for this 2022-2023 season.
Okay, I had gotten a query from somebody who was listening. I can't remember exactly what it said, but just to clarify the timeline. So all of the settling of penalties will be done on the parade itself.
Correct.
And so once you all do the tallying after the parades, then what you announce is final. There's no more protests, no nothing.
When we announce, it will still be unofficial for 48 hours because we still have to allow a separate independent auditor to look over all the scores to make sure that there were any Italian queries. There won't be
Okay,
any changes in regards to penalty points or whatever. But we want to make sure
okay.
that for Italian purposes that it's correct. And so 48 hours after that purpose, the parades will be official.
So refresh my memory. I think I had asked you this last week. Refresh my memory. I don't know if it was happening before, but Junkanoo groups do not have the opportunity to protest an infraction that they see in another group.
No, so good, so absolutely not. And on, the only persons that could issue a penalty is a
Mm-hmm.
PMT official who is accredited to issue a penalty. Groups are not permitted, are not allowed to point out any penalties or anything like that. They are not a part of the PMT. Now, groups can certainly have persons observing the process, but they are not to get involved with the PMT to issue to say, well, this should have been a penalty or that should have been a penalty. That is not the place of the groups. That's the job and the responsibility of the PMT, the judges, the positive and the negative judges. So absolutely not. Groups is not the group's job to do that. I know in the past, primarily by the entry gate, there would have been reps from all sort of groups. They are pointing, hey, look at this, look at that. No, we are discouraging that. That will not be allowed to happen. The PMT will be removing persons. If you are with your group, you should be parading with your group. You should not be interfering with any other particular group.
Okay, so the decisions regarding penalty are rest solely in the hands of what you call the negative judges, the judges who are there to take away points.
Absolutely.
Okay, so they are carrying a heavy burden, and and I would imagine that they now. Let me ask you this then: Are they chosen randomly from the pool of judges, or they are selected and trained separately for this particular purpose?
So they there's a twofold answer. They are selected randomly. Arlene, they are selected randomly. They go to the judges course to get the generalized course, as well as there will be additional special training in regards to negative scoring, in regards to the penalties and those procedures. And so it's twofold. So those persons are random. They do not know who they are. They can be any particular persons that is a prospective judge, part of the PMT, and they will receive that specialized training in regards to the penalties of the parade.
Do they operate on the parade? I'm just trying to get a feel so that we can all be clear on the system. Do they operate on the parade as a unit, or I have my tablet and I enter where I see a penalty and then it's tallied without me collaborating with any of the other penalty judges?
So let me expand on that. And so they will be in the parade zones. You know, we have several parade zones on Bay Street as well as Shirley Street. So they will be throughout the parades.
So they will be assigned. Each one is assigned.
Correct. They will have the individual tablet. Another change, significant change in regards to this process, Arlene, is that every single Junkanoo group will also be given what's called a penalty tablet. And so in the event that, let's say, Foxhill Congos, let's say, for example, once again, if the Foxhill Congos receive a penalty, the person who the Foxhill Congos identify as their Grand Marshal or protest specialist, whoever, they will have a dedicated tablet where that infraction will be sent directly to that tablet. I also want to remind the Junkanoos and the community and the public that every single infraction has to be photographed. We have technology such that when you are issued a penalty or levied a penalty, one of the requirements or one of the procedures is that that judge who issues that penalty take a photo of that infraction to be submitted to the tally room, to the IRC, and now that group rep or the group marshal will also get the tablet where they will see that infraction. So, for example, the Foxhill Congos will be on the parade dancing. Let's say they receive a penalty infraction. That designated person will have a tablet, and that tablet will start vibrating and will be notified that, hey, you received the penalty. They will be able to click on that infraction and see the quote-unquote said infraction, fraud penalty. And if the Foxhill Congos chooses to now to protest that said penalty, they will have the ability to immediately go to the next IRC secure site and adjudicate that. They can say, hey, XYZ, ma'am, this is not a clot. This is XYZ. Here's the clot number to distinguish XYZ. A determination can be made based on our rules and our procedures, and then we can move on.
Excellent. Okay, now I understand. So far we have in the B division, you are not required to bring in a lead piece or step down. Disqualification is out. You will simply get penalties for the infraction.
For the eligibility infraction, correct.
Right. On-site
Yes,
adjudication, and groups will have penalty tablets, so that they are alerted immediately, um, if a penalty is levied.
absolutely,
They the four main ones that you articulated to this point.
absolutely correct.
Okay, excellent. Okay, thank you so much. DF, you got any questions for that?
No, I have a particular comment. The comment in regards to a lot of groups have alarms about penalties that can be received on the parade. And
Yeah.
I asked this question. After eligibility, where most groups quote unquote pick up most of their infractions, after being eligible on the parade, there's only like two or three penalties that you can get on the road.
Absolutely.
It's only
And
two
to
or
that
three.
point, Darren, thanks for that, that smart reminder. And just to also inform the Junkanoo community and the public, what we've done this year, Ali, and I'm sorry for skipping over this, is we have also reduced the amount of penalties that um, that one can actually protest. And so in the past,
Yeah.
a group could protest any protest they deem fit or any particular point that they wanted to. A group can come and protest and say, well, I want to protest my score because my score was low. So that judge
Hmm.
probably cockeyed. Um,
Yeah.
this year, what we have done, Arlene, with consultation of all of the groups, if we have looked at the reoccurring penalties that really impact the parades, and we have allowed groups to process, and we have allowed groups and agreed with groups that these particular items, these major infractions, will only be the infractions that a group can protest. So no longer can a group protest any particular thing. I think, and I don't have my notes in front of me, but I think the major things that groups will be allowed to protest now would be obstruction, which is a major issue and can affect the parade in a major way.
Hmm.
Of course, cloth penalties,
Hmm.
which could happen at any point throughout the parade. Um, Time. So,
Yeah.
groups are allotted 72 minutes to parade. And so groups will have the
72.
ability 72 minutes yes, you have 72 total minutes. You have 72 minutes to parade from point start to end. And I think one other thing, so I think is maybe four points or four specialized itemized things that groups can actually protest, as opposed to in years past where a group could protest anything. A group could say, well, this person, I am protesting because this person used a recycled piece of costume. I saw that head before.
Yeah, and that ain't against the rules, no how.
That ain't against the rules, no how. And so we're really trying to streamline and clean up the parades, and particularly the aftermath, so we can
Mhm.
get to a resolution quicker. We have all experienced in the past when we have heard the unofficial, and despite the fact that we say we make public that these are unofficial, public persons and our members still think that once they hear those unofficial parades, that
Yeah,
is it. Not keeping in mind that things upon a review can change, and so we're trying to speed up that review process, because we're
yeah,
tired of the emotional distress of coming and whatever happened and something happens to change, and then everyone feel like the whole world is burning down when they
See
yeah.
the
agree to certain procedures. And so we're really trying to
emotional
clean it up.
distress.
Boy,
Yes, correct.
listen here, when those results change, emotional distress doesn't begin to describe it.
Yes, yes.
When you thought you
We have
win.
all, and my point exactly. And in all reality, sometimes in emotional sense of it, it isn't fair, because after we had those unofficial results, groups started to celebrate. You're on a high, you're in a celebratory mood, and then the hair at the end of the month, well,
It
actually,
wasn't you.
it wasn't you.
We could laugh now, but we have all experienced that,
Oh,
and
we
that's
cried in,
truly
but we
that's oh
cried in.
we wept, we wept.
Oh yeah.
There's nothing funny about that in the least, nothing funny. So Chairman, you before you break off running now, we got a couple other things we got to talk to you about. So they the main points about the parades, right?
Correct.
We've covered all of the main changes for the parades.
Correct.
Okay. Now, I saw in the newspapers, I'm shifting gears slightly. I saw in the newspaper the coverage of the distribution of seed funding by the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture.
Absolutely correct. Correct. That took place on Tuesday past.
Mm-hmm.
And so the government should have social responsibility, make a donation or seed funding presentation to assist the groups us on their drive to get to Bay Street. And so the government of Bahamas presented all of our member groups here in the province, the JCNP, as well as the Family Island groups, with seed funding. Every category A group receives $30,000, and every category B group received $15,000, as well as the individual association, the individual guys. They received $2,500. And so we are thankful for the Minister Mario Boleg, for once again living up to the government's social responsibility and assisting these groups in regards to that seed funding presentation. In addition to that, we all know that those funds alone cannot and is far insufficient on getting our groups to Bay Street.
Right.
And so groups in the background, they still have to go through their corporate sponsors. They're still connecting with the different sponsors and corporate Bahamas trying to raise funds. To put on a category A group, for example, a One Family, a Saxons, a Valley Boys, these people, these groups, these entities need to raise in excess of $250,000 plus to make these parades happen.
To get a minimum of 5 people, to get a minimum of 500 people down Bay Street twice, fully
absolutely
making their own music. Uh-huh.
And in all honesty, as I'm starting to find out as I'm connecting with the groups, I anticipate that will increase due to inflation. So we're seeing like we were finding that a yard of tubing hours, which was once a little over $100, is now $300. And so the cost has exploded upon us due to inflation. You know, we are not different from any other industry, and so we are feeling the effects. And this thing is an expensive feat. The average Junkanoo spends anywhere between $25,000 to $3,000 of his or her own money to go to prepare their costumes to get on the parade. And so these parades in total, I think UB did an estimate that an excess of $20 million is what it takes.
27 million.
27. Sorry, I stand to be corrected. $27 million that it takes to put these parades on the road, and the groups raise the lion's share of those monies to make this happen for our culture. And so we are grateful for the government for their contribution. But the work continues in regards to funding because it's rough, darling.
Yeah, rough. And like you say, most of us are putting our hands in our pockets. Even if our group is able to supply the basic cardboard and glue and stuff, you still gotta
basic cardboard, glue, crepe paper, aluminum rods will run you into $250,000. And so individuals still have to go in their pockets and if they want the trick and decorate and feather and all of these stuff. And so Junkanoo is a very expensive feat. We don't do this for monetary reasons. That's very clear.
Yeah.
We do this for the love of our culture. And there's nothing like Junkanoo. We don't get any reward. There's no money at the end of the tunnel. There's nothing but jubilation and joy for putting a presentation together, an experience together as a unit and celebrating our culture.
I wonder if because we have less money, we can see less feathers and less shine. I just wonder if we could see less decoration.
I would, me personally, Arlene, I would hope so. I would hope that persons would do their best to keep in mind that look, we're still in a precarious economic situation. And so to be wise with your funds. COVID has taught us a lot, and we must plan for the future. So your 2 pennies that you get, as the chairman, I'm encouraging you not to spend your 2 pennies on Junkanoo. Keep a penny from the only requirement is that you have to be pasted and to be on this road and to celebrate your culture. So don't
old people say don't spend your last.
Don't spend your last. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Boy, we could talk till the cows come home. but okay, but on a serious note, we have created an art form that we cannot afford, and that puts us in a very difficult position. And before we go into that anymore, we need to run to our next break. Chairman, we got handcuffs on you. You ain't going nowhere. So please, please, ladies and gentlemen, stay with us. I ain't get on to the judges yet, and we'll be right back.
And all of that. But there's no disqualifiers as it relates to age or anything like that. It's
So here's
open. You
another
don't you do not
curveball.
you do not have to have an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree,
Okay.
or a doctorate in Junkanoo.
Do you ask anything about physical health? Because that is, I would imagine, a grueling exercise. You got to be up all night and most
Yes.
of the time on your feet. Do you have that kind of question in there as well?
Top of my mind, one of the critical questions we ask you is that, and we learned you is that you will have to be on your feet for 12 to 15 hours per parade. And so that is top of mind. That is something that is on the application form that you have to commit to,
Okay. Okay.
as well as attending a 6 weeks judges course, etc., etc., etc. You will have to have pass, I think, 85%. After you attend that course, you have to pass 85% of the judges the exam, the final exam,
Yeah.
to be able to be accredited to judge in this parade. And so that will go live on Monday. The deadline for prospective judges is September 30th. We would like the judges course to commence October 11th.
Mhm.
And so we're making all of the PMT is certainly making all of the final preparations, preparing for that course. And so we ask all Bahamians, any Bahamians that are willing, that want to do community service, you want to do a national service, to come out, apply, to be one of our prospective judges for this upcoming Junkanoo season.
Chairman, how do you discourage Junkanoo groups from sending people to the judges' course? How do you discourage that?
So we have had a lot of discussion, open and transparent and honest discussions at the JCNP in relations to that. Those are some of the evils and the unkind and unknown or not spoken about things that may have occurred in the past. But this year, Aline, we wanted to be as open and transparent with the community as possible, and so we strongly discourage groups from doing that. Um, we can't stop anyone from applying, but we
Right.
want the groups to stand down, stay out of the process. These instances like that is what cause so much divisiveness and divisiveness in our community, because persons
Mhm.
trying to get a competitive edge. And so we are really encouraging groups to stand down, stay out of it. Let's have a transparent process. Let's have an honest process. I think persons are okay with not winning a parade once it's done in a transparent and fair manner. And so, me as the chairman of the JCMP, my job and my ultimate responsibility is to make sure that the parade is fair and that it's transparent, and that we operate with a certain level of decorum and honesty. And so, I encourage all persons to look, don't do it. Don't do it. We don't need any controversy.
Mhm.
Go and prepare, and you win these parades in the shack by your preparation, by your
Mhm.
presentation, by your
Mhm.
efforts. Do not look
Mhm.
to try game the system in any way. We are not doing ourselves any favors by doing that. As I said, when we win this parade, there isn't a mountain of money or prize that we are winning. So we're jeopardizing ourselves. So let's do the right thing. And I really encourage the public to themselves do the right thing. Let's be honest. Let's be fair. Let's be transparent. And let's have an excellent year this year.
Excellent. The as chairman of the JCNP, to what extent do you feel
Think I
that
will not.
if only from he coming now, you got to answer this one for me before
Yes.
you go. As chairman of the JCNP, to what extent do you feel that you are constantly trying to maintain a balance between the competitive nature of Junkanoo groups and the parades and what is good for the development of Junkanoo? Are they the same thing? Is there a pull that you have to constantly balance? Tell me about that.
Absolutely. It's something that I have to constantly. It's a fine line, Aline, that I constantly have to struggle to walk and balance. It's something that we struggle with as a
Mm-hmm.
community. The competitive aspect of Junkanoo has always been good. It's what drives us, right? We love
Mm-hmm.
our group and celebrate our group. But that competitive, what I found is that that competitive edge, that drive, that need to win and compete has stagnated our growth, the growth and development of our parades in Junkanoo. Because for a long time, as Junkanoos, as a community, we were blinded by just that competition. And so Junkanoo to us was winning. And so we are starting to see some of the effects of that. We see it in the amount of persons that can build quality Junkanoo costumes. We see that in the amount of persons that are still die-hard or passionate participants of Junkanoo. We have allowed that competition to fester so much and to dominate us so much that it has really stagnated our groups. I personally believe that our drive and our focus so much on competition has stagnated us about 25 years in development and growth. And so we're still having these challenges now of funding. We're still having these battles now with our partners in government about the ownership of these parades. We still have persons in government and public who don't understand the true cost of these parades and what it really takes to put on these parades. We still have Junkanoos who don't understand what it takes to put on these parades. And so the competitive side of it and development side of it, it is a huge challenge. But Aline, it's something that I think we all as Junkanoo as community have to find and sit down and plan out a national plan as it relates the national development plan as it relates to Junkanoo. And we have to learn how to separate the competitive side aspect of Junkanoo from the development aspect of Junkanoo, because we are in danger. I know it doesn't seem like it. We all love it. But Junkanoo is we are in danger. And this generation that is coming up, we're just so infatuated with these tablets and these.
Chairman of the JCNP, to what extent do you feel that you are constantly trying to maintain a balance between the competitive nature of Junkanoo groups and the parades and what is good for the development of Junkanoo? Are they the same thing? Is there a pull that you have to constantly balance? Tell me about that.
Absolutely. It's something that I have to constantly. It's a fine line, Aline, that I constantly have to struggle to walk and balance. It's something that we struggle with as a community. The competitive aspect of Junkanoo has always been good. It's what drives us, right? We love our group and celebrate our group. But that competitive, what I found is that that competitive edge, that drive, that need to win and compete, has stagnated our growth, the growth and development of our parades in Junkanoo. Because for a long time, as Junkanoos, as a community, we were blinded by just that competition. And so Junkanoo to us was winning. And so we are starting to see some of the effects of that. We see it in the amount of persons that can build quality Junkanoo costumes. We see that in the amount of persons that are still die-hard or passionate participants of Junkanoo. We have allowed that competition to fester so much and to dominate us so much that it has really stagnated our groups. I personally believe that our drive and our focus so much on competition has stagnated us about 25 years in development and growth. And so we're still having these challenges now of funding. We're still having these battles now with our partners in government about the ownership of these parades. We still have persons in government and public who don't understand the true cost of these parades and what it really takes to put on these parades. We still have Junkanoos who don't understand what it takes to put on these parades. And so the competitive side of it and development side of it, it is a huge challenge. But Aline, it's something that I think we all as Junkanoo as community have to find and sit down and plan out a national plan as it relates the national development plan as it relates to Junkanoo. And we have to learn how to separate the competitive side aspect of Junkanoo from the development aspect of Junkanoo, because we are in danger. I know it doesn't seem like it. We all love it. But Junkanoo is we are in danger. There's always grateful the government has has perhaps the major investment, major single investment, as that they assist the groups with finances, as well as they through the government, their various government agencies pay for the expensive items such as the bleachers, fencing, etc. And so they always feel that there's some sort of ownership that lies with them. But Aline, as everyone knows, without the groups putting on this parade,
it's your
there will be
parade.
no parade. And
You
so,
produce it, right?
we will always hold fast to the tradition and the belief that these are the parades of Junkanoos. These are our parades. We are grateful for the government for their social responsibility and their in-kind support of Junkanoos. But these are our parades. These groups and these members and these Junkanoos are in the shacks, away from their family for thousands of hours, putting their work into this.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I mean. So these are our parades. This is the One Family Parade, Saxons, Valley, Roots, Genesis, Congos, individual. These are our parades as Junkanoos. The government can't do this without us. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so we are of that stance, and we will always guard and safeguard and hold fast to our responsibility, as the watchful and gatekeepers of our parades.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we are grateful for your stewardship, and we are very proud of what the JCNP has been able to accomplish, because for so long we were just regarded as the stupid people jumping up and down in the road with no sense to be able to run our own parades. And there were some eras when, to me, it seemed almost as if we were treated as children, by people who thought that they knew better and could do better and tell us how to manage our parades. And so for me, from the outset, the JCNP for me has been a proud moment, and that's why it has always had my full support. And I do hope that you are able, with your executive, to weather every storm, because there's no turning back. Praise the Lord, no turning back. The
Absolutely,
Junkanoos have to be able to manage their own parades.
by the grace of God.
By the
Um,
grace of God, yes.
so thank you, Arlene. If you call again next week, I'll be here. Do what I gotta do. But I absolutely have to go.
Yes, and Dion, you stayed longer than you promised.
Yes, yes,
Thank
yes.
you so much. We really appreciate
Thank you.
it. Okay,
Take
take
care.
care. All right,
Okay.
bye-bye. And so, ladies and gentlemen, you heard the chairman of the Junkanoo Corporation, New Providence Limited, Dion Miller, gave us more insight into what to expect with these parades this year. And of course, now, if you want to call us with your comments, DF, give us those numbers, please.
325-5403, I think is the working line that we have, and also from the family of islands.
Mm-hmm.
1-242-300-8255. Those are two
Mm-hmm.
lines that we have working for you. Call us, let us know what you think.
Mm-hmm. And
Let's
where's
talk
that
about some of the
Ronald?
things.
Oh, and where is that Ronald Sims who made that provocative comment at the end of the show last week? Ronald Sims, what did you say?
You got to take me back there. Good morning.
You made a naughty comment to the effect that Junkanoo is what it is. This is what I remember, that
Mhm,
Junkanoo is what it is today because of the JCNP, and you weren't saying that in a complimentary way.
mhm, mhm, mhm.
You remember?
Yes, yes, yeah, and I was saying that based on a couple of things.
Mm-hmm.
One, that I believe the JCNP, who has ultimate responsibility for the integrity of the parades,
Yeah.
have not exercised that responsibility in many ways. One, for example, in the judging process, we always blame the judges for what comes out of Bay Street. But if the judges are in violation of the JCNP standards, then the JCNP ought to step in and say, no, that cannot stand.
But
If
Ronald,
the rules,
don't play brand new now. This has been going on from the NJC was in charge. Don't play brand new.
and I
I
am
have
not
sat.
saying no.
I
I am not saying no. I am not saying no. But I am
Mhm.
saying if we're going to change it, it got to begin and end somewhere.
Yeah.
And now it is the responsibility of the
You're
JCNP.
quite
They
right.
got to
You're quite right. I have seen. I was a member of the National Junkanoo Committee. Maureen Duvalier and I were on the NJC, the National Junkanoo. Initially it was Masquerade Committee. Then it was Junkanoo, National Junkanoo Committee. I was on there from '76 right around until the time I started to rush with the Saxons. And
Mhm.
what I saw during those years, I never want Junkanoo to go back to being controlled by anybody other than Junkanoos. Now we got our faults, like you say. We're not perfect and we have to tighten up on some things. But let me tell you, I was there one time when senior officials, I won't call the rank that they held, senior officials in the NJC, I saw this and heard this with my own eyes. I asking nobody. They could tell you which group, which judges were Valley and which judges were Saxons. And I'm saying to myself, what nonsense is this? And the year that the Music Makers won, I heard the comment that, the Saxons and the Valley judges kind of like balance out each other. And everybody must see had the Music Makers third, and that's how they won. I cannot be a part of that nonsense. I was out of there. And
I agree with you to some degree on that. But on the other hand, I'm not sure that the people making the parade are the best to manage the parade. That's
so
why
who
we
then?
have this. Hold on. The confusion in Junkanoo today, and the reason the competition is more prevalent than the presentation now is because those same JCNP sit around the table and they try to flip the script in their favor.
Yeah.
So the same people. So that's another part of the problem. That's why I lay the blame on the JCNP feet. The politics of the JCNP is what is changing the rules of the game.
Yeah.
Who are you going to blame for that?
Yeah.
Who are you going to blame for that?
Well, my solution, as I have said several times before, my solution is that there should be an advisory body that sits and is able to advise them on certain decisions being made. And that avoids the kind of poison that you are talking about. Groups who even influence other groups, even financially or otherwise, with the promise of support because they want a certain decision to be made in their favor that does not necessarily is not in the best interest of Junkanoo. And I agree with you, that's my concern.
This ain't nothing new, You remember the time when the Valley used to have the pigs flip with them in terms of when they coming out. It's the same kind of politics going on, man.
Ronald says, listen here, so you had to bring that up. Okay, so
the Valley used to do the flipping thing, man.
Yes, the Valley in those days, you could swap your numbers.
Yeah.
And so the Valley boys used to work with the pigs who out of the Valley. And I know one year the pigs had specific instructions to go as slow as they could in the front of one family to hold us down. And you know what that caused?
You get tired.
No. That's why in 1998 we pressed and carried on so much that we got the official number draw. It was in Rawson Square in 1998 when you picked the numbers and you could not change them. And not only that, we also were successful in getting the what you call them, the synopses read publicly. You know why? Because you are asked in June or July, whatever it is, as a Junkanoo group, you are asked to submit your synopsis to the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture. And the person who is receiving your synopsis is a prominent member of a Junkanoo group. You know what Darren used to put on ours every year? What our theme was? Batman and the Boys. And we made so much noise that we got the number draw and the reading of the synopsis to be made public so that everybody could hear the synopsis one time, because people in other groups knew your synopsis and you didn't know theirs. And so that's what that caused. You opened that can of worms. That was 1998.
So skullduggery has been part and parcel of this parade from time.
Yeah, truly. And we just have to continue to work and push and get it as good as we can get it, because this is our responsibility now. We are alive. We are living in this era. And when history is written, it will be, and what did our grandparents, they'll be talking about us. What did our grandparents do to correct this? How come they didn't this? We are actually answering to future generations before the question is even asked.
And so those are two of the main reasons why I lay it at the feet of the JCNP. They're people in charge today, so they gotta make the changes.
That's right. And that's why I asked Dion that question about the balance between what is good for Junkanoo and what and what it is and what is in the best, what is in the best interest of the groups. How heavy is that debate? How heavy is that the whole tug of war between what is good for Junkanoo and what good for me and my group, and we won't win.
Moses says, I was under the impression that the parade belongs to the Bahamian people, not the persons rushing or competing. The rushing community is responsible for the management of the parade.
Well, Moses, I say it slightly differently. I always say that Junkanoo belongs to the people of the Bahamas. Junkanoo, period. Wherever you could pick up your drum, your cowbell, anywhere. Junkanoo belongs to the people of the Bahamas. Those parades today, they belong to the people who create them. Now, when we have a people's rush and you are invited, everybody jumps into me. That's the people of the Bahamas owning Junkanoo. But this kind of structured, heavily organized penalty parade that we have created, Boxing Day and New Year's, to me, that's so far away from what Junkanoo really supposed to be. And I feel that those parades belong to the people who create them. There's a fine line, but there is a line. I agree with you.
Folks,
that's another one of the issues that we need to look at.
All
these restrictions and whatnot that we've put on this celebration.
Yes.
When you and I were youngsters, Arlene, Junkanoo was in this. What's this?
Just more and more structured.
Okay, we have to pick this up on the next side of the break because there's a lot of things to be said. People are still asking some questions. We're gonna run to our break. Folks, you're tuning into Junkanoo 242. We'll be right back.
We'll tackle all the questions when we come back.
The Ministry of Social Services and Urban Development, in conjunction with the National Emergency Agency, presents the 2022 official hurricane shelters for Matthew Town, St. Philip's Anglican Community Center, Matthew Town, Zion Baptist Church, Matthew Town. The Ministry of Social Services and Urban Development, in conjunction with the National Emergency Agency, presents the 2022 official hurricane shelters for the islands of the Bahamas. Ragged Island, Holy Innocents Anglican Church, Junkanoo. The Ministry of Social Services and Urban Development, in conjunction with the National Emergency Agency, presents the 2022 official hurricane shelters for the islands of the Bahamas. Maguana, St. James Native Baptist Church, Abrahams Bay, Betsy Bay Community Center, Betsy Bay. Maguana Comprehensive K School, Pirates Well.
Examples of excellence. From his school days, Richard Dean, the great Sweet Richard, had excelled in his school productions, especially in dancing, beating the tambourine, and scraping the saw. Sweet Richard went on to become arguably the greatest Bahamian showman of all time. Entertainer, limbo dancer, and Junkanoo performer. Sweet Richard's dramatic and flamboyant presentations on Bay Street during the Junkanoo parades gave focus to the art of performance in Junkanoo. His inimitable style, the trademark wide hat, flowing cape, and bare feet are indelibly printed in the annals of Junkanoo history. His untimely death in March of 1964 left a void in the world of Junkanoo and entertainment that lingers even today. Richard, Sweet Richard Dean, this week's posthumous inductee into the Junkanoo 242 Shack of Excellence.
Welcome back. You're tuning in to Junkanoo 242. It's the second lap. This morning we are on our third segment of our Back to Base series. Earlier in the segment, you missed the JCNP chairman who laid out some things that are changing or adjusting in this parade. One of those things is that penalties will be adjudicated on the parade while it's happening. Only certain things that you will be able to protest, like eligibility, you will not be able to protest that. After the count is gone, the count is gone. You can have a recount, but that's it. A lot of other things that will be that was discussed in the show. Of course, you can watch this again on our Facebook page, Junkanoo 242, as we put it up once the show is over. If you missed the beginning, or you can visit our Facebook page and start it from the beginning. But it's definitely on our YouTube page, Junkanoo 242. Before we run to the break, Arlene, you guys were saying who the parade belongs to. Some of the things that the JCNP is struggling with, and the point of which Ronald made in terms of some of the things that the JCNP has done before the JCNP, the NJC has done. One of the things I would like to comment on, and I think that it cannot just be an advisory board that's put into the JCNP. That board, in my opinion, has to carry some weight. And why I say that is because there's a lot of times that something is just advisory and carries no weight.
Be careful.
No, hold on, Arlene. Arlene. No, see, because here's why I say this, right? And I want to take this, I want to break this down. When I break this down is that I'm not saying that we need to go outside of our scope of the JCNP, but it's similar to this. It's like saying, do we not have one honest judge that could judge our parade?
And plenty of people will answer no.
Okay, but okay, now, so here's my thing is, how do we put quote unquote criteria in place that can make it as fair as possible? When you speak to your board of what we're talking about, I would take it to understand that board makes decisions based on what is what we call the best interest of Junkanoo. In order for you to get the best interest of Junkanoo, we're going to have to define some stuff, correct? We're going to have to define what makes our parade unique. And what are those things? What are those non-negotiable? It brings me back to the point that the board sits to the point whereas it stands for those things and it votes in favor of those things. If we're starting to twiddle away from that because you have the majority in the room, that board is just going to be a twinkling sound in the room. You see what I'm saying? Because they really carry no weight. And that's what you have right now. You have a lot of people who want their way. So what they do is they sway, they talk to whoever they need to talk to, or even manipulate to get the vote to go in their way. And that's what we have going on in many instances right now.
But
and
see, let me go ahead. Sorry.
And this is why I'm saying the advisory body has, and I'm not saying that, it has to be somebody from a different ministry or out there or whatever. I think is one of the things that is missing is that the pillar right now, or the directive or the compass for the body in the JCNP is the competition. And quite frankly, they're succeeding. They're doing whatever it takes to get to the competition. I think there has to be another compass or another mandate added to that. Here comes your body. That stands for protection, preservation, and nurturing. So now the compass it broadens to not just the competition.
Now, let me read Dwayne's comment because he is heading right where I was heading. He says, it is quite clear that the NJC and the JCNP are not on the same page. The government, please excuse me because my text is jumping around. The
Go ahead.
government, no, gone again. The government through the NJC has made a proposal to change a number of items that currently fall under the portfolio of the JCNP. Can 242 invite reps from both entities for an open-air conversation so as to put all concerns to rest? See, that's your challenge right there. That's your challenge right there. And he obviously knows more than me, but my gut tells me, be careful if these parades don't get taken out of your hands. The NJC is an advisory body to the government. The government has a partnership, a written partnership with the JCNP. We have to be very careful that we as Junkanoos do not lose control of our parades. I don't understand. This may sound, forgive me. I don't understand when Dwayne says the JCNP and the NJC seem to be, they have a difference of opinion. Forgive me, I don't know how else to say this, but how does it come before the NJC? They advise the government. They run the parades in the Family Islands. These two big parades in Nassau fall under the auspices of the JCNP. I'm trying to understand where we come to a situation where we got a difference of opinion. What does that mean? And so we got to be very, very careful. I understand the pitfalls of Junkanoos running their own parades, but believe me when I tell you, be very careful how we move to modify that. Be very, very careful because Dwayne has only proven what I suspected.
Arlene, I'm not talking about bringing an advisory body. When I talk about advisory body, we've talked about this before numerous times on the show on how people can be selected and what needs to happen.
And Devon
Javon
Jones,
yes, he brings up the point. Why would an advisory body
well, see,
not be
you, right? When I do believe, even given my sarcastic comment about you can't find nobody honest to do it, I do believe that there are Bahamians of the highest integrity and who have knowledge of Junkanoo and its history to offer sage advice. First person my mind goes on is Dr. Nicolette Bethel. She is not going to be swayed by anybody, not from my years of experience with her. Now, she gonna have to prove me wrong. And she knows the history of Junkanoo. And so I do believe it might only be 5 people, but I do believe that we can find people who are above the level of the group competition, who can see Junkanoo from the perspective of wanting what is good for it and to retain and maintain those things that make it different and unique in all the world. I do think that is possible. Yes.
I know it's
I agree with you, and I think you're being a little conservative. I believe we could find much more than 5, but we have not made the effort to locate
right.
We don't
exactly.
We don't want to make the effort because the guiding compass is to win. That's what the guiding compass is right now. And they could talk about it offline or online. The guiding compass is to win inside the room. And when you ask the question, and I make the simple thing, we always people make or bring into controversy what the judges score or don't score or whatever. But how much of us are ready to actually sit down and define rules and actually have the conversation about rules? And like Ronald said, when a rule is breached by a judge or penalty person or PMT, That's when the organization is supposed to step in and make the correct call in accordance to the rules. And I said it all the point.
I agree.
When we sit down and we talk about penalties, a lot of groups get up in arms about penalties that are given to their group or whatever. There's only about 4 penalties that you can get on the parade. Only about 4.
Yeah.
One is obstruction.
Furthermore, if you sit down and you make the rules, if you're a part of the body making the rules, why would you come and contravene those rules on parade?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's it right there.
It's a matter of principle.
That's it right there. That's it right there. And see, on top of that, and see, this is the point that I'm making is that regardless of what is being said or the rule that is being made, if it's breached, like I tell a lot of people, when it comes to the IRC is supposed to make decisions in accordance with the rules, not on how they feel. It's supposed to be in accordance with the rules. And if they make a decision that is not in accordance with the rules, the organization called the JCNP is supposed to do what is right. And they're supposed to make the decision based in accordance to the rules. Because if you make a decision that is outside of the rules, it's an unjust rule. You just made a decision that went against what you have on the books. But a lot of people, Ronald, you said it, they're afraid of the confrontation. We are too busy kicking the can down the road. We're too busy saying, oh, well, this used to happen from the NJC, and this used to happen from the JDA, and the JLA, and the Leaders Association, and nobody wants to say, you know what? We're going to bring an end to it right here. And we're going to start right here trying to bring things into the accordance, and regardless of which group it pains, or who gets the penalty, or who gets what, we're afraid to say, here's the right thing to do. Simple as that.
And just before we go to our final break, Dwayne puts his postscript here. The point is that 90% or more of the persons on the NJC sat on or represented their group on the JCNP. With that being said, there should not be an issue in terms of the duties of both entities. That's the problem right there. Anyhow, ladies and gentlemen, we are running to our final break. And when we get back, we will have the news from the shacks and we'll wrap up, and we'd love to hear your final comments. We'll be right back.
Center does not control the naming of tropical storms. Instead, there is a strict procedure established by the World's Meteorological Organization for Atlantic hurricanes. There is a list of male and female names which are used on a 6-year rotation. The only time that there is a change is if the storm is so deadly or costly that the future use of its name on a different storm would be inappropriate. These are the names of storms for the 2022 Atlantic hurricane season: Alex, Bonnie, Colin, Danielle, Earl, Fiona, Gaston, Hermine, Ian, Julia, Carl, Lisa, Martin, Nicole, Owen, Paula, Richard, Shari, Tobias, Virginie, and Walter. This public service announcement was brought to you by the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas in conjunction with the National Emergency Management Agency.
And now for news off the shack wall. Happy birthday greetings going out to everybody that's celebrating a birthday at this time. A special happy birthday greeting is going out to my niece, Jernique Brooks, and also to my sister, Valderine Evans, who is celebrating today. Happy birthday to you, ladies. Everybody else and who's celebrating, September is a heavy month for birthdays. Y'all
Oh,
send them
yeah.
to us so we can send it in and let these people know that you're thinking about them in their time of their happy birthday. Condolences to the families, to all who are grieving the loss of the loved ones at this time. Our hearts and our prayers are with you. And it is Saturday. It is Saturday, September the 17th, 2022. We are 14 hopeful weeks away from Bay. Before we leave the news, just want to tell everybody Monday, the judges' applications goes live at junkanoo.tix.com, junkanoo.tix.com. The applications are there. Also, it will be on the JCNP page if you want to download it from there and fill it out. You can drop it off. If you're doing a handwritten one, you can drop it off to the office at Norfolk House at the security booth. The drop box is there. Or once you fill it out online, it automatically goes to the JCNP email address. So if you want to be a judge, you could sign up and just, see if you're going to make the cut, see if you're going to pass the exam to be a judge of these parades.
And when you say make the cut, that of course is the vetting by the Junkanoo groups, right?
That is correct.
Right.
That is correct. And also you have to make the passing mark.
Okay.
One question. With Monday being now a holiday, does that have any impact on the release of the application?
No, sir. This application is digital. Ain't nothing stopping this.
You don't think holiday time, everything to stop.
Yeah. But this, I personally feel the use of the word holiday, it might have been better to say a day of commemoration or whatever, because when we hear holiday, half of Nassau could be on the beach.
Well, Arlene, if that's where the people have to mourn, what do you want them to do?
That's right.
You
want to cry.
Yeah, they don't want nobody to see them crying, so they get in the water.
I gotta share this with you, and some may find it funny, some may not find it funny, but I gotta share something I just saw online, and somebody says it's a quote from somewhere. So after all the Africans y'all threw in the ocean, y'all surprised the mermaid black?
Listen here, Ronald. This, yes, and I saw, and they're making noise because the new Ariel is supposed to be black, and people want to know, if Elizabeth Taylor was depicting Cleopatra, who was a black woman, or if Sir Laurence Olivier was depicting Shakespeare's Othello, who was black, and the list is long. Why do you have a problem with Ariel being black? Yeah. And the thing about it is this is really an event in world history, the longest serving monarch of the British, of the United Kingdom. And, whether you are mourning her passing or whether you are remembering all of the atrocities that England, that executed against people around the world. It's a moment for us to pause and reflect. And I am soaking in the history because you are learning so much. All of these things are coming to the forefront now, and what I appreciate is that my people, we Bahamians, are very opinionated. And whatever side we fall on, we got an opinion, Bella. And so the debate on Facebook and in other places as to whether or not we should mourn her and how we should mourn her. But for me, it is the amount of information that is coming out that we are being alerted to, and so we offer our condolences. I don't care who you are. When you lose your mother, it's very painful. I've had that experience, and it's very painful on a personal note. And so, we offer condolences to the royal family. Now, where we stand in terms of history and what they did to us and what they didn't do, that's for us to decide personally. But yes, it's Monday is as the minute you say public holiday in the Bahamas, Paula, you can find us on the beach somewhere.
But, you can't mourn if you ain't got no beach and you ain't got something to eat. You understand? And if you got something to eat, you can need something to drink. So I mean, but
you don't understand the point I'm making.
This last comment I have to read. As
Please.
Junkanoos, we've become, some say, have become myopic. We cannot pull these parades off without the government assistance in so many areas. Myopic because we all seem to believe that only we, us Junkanoos, can produce, handle, and everything else this parade. This appears to be a view that only persons that rush are capable of managing or handling Junkanoo. And I would like to address that. It's not the point of that we feel that. It's the point that we have been given this duty. We being the Junkanoo Corporation of New Providence. And if you're going to give somebody a job to do not undercut them or try to come around them and interfere with what they're supposed to be doing. And these are some of the things that we're talking about. It's not like the partnership is not valued. It's not that the partnership is not respected. The point what is being addressed is, if you've already given this person the mandate to do something, let that person handle that office or that duty properly.
But here's another part of the issue you face. Who paying the piper?
What do you mean, who's paying the piper?
Yeah, who paying the piper?
It's nobody's paying the piper. It's a partnership.
The government is not paying the whole bill.
It's a partnership.
And they are elected by the people. If you have that amount of your population involved in an activity, you have, I think, Dion, he didn't call it a moral obligation.
He who pays
social.
But they are not paying. But let's get clear now. They are not paying Ronald Sims. They are not paying the whole price. Let's make sure that we understand. Please find Nicolette Bethel's study, and you will find that of that $27 million that it costs to produce that parade, the government contributes less than $3 million. Get your facts right. Okay? And so the point I'm making is
that's on paper. That's on paper. Nicolette's research, I appreciate Nicolette's research. It is probably right, but that's on paper.
Ronald.
Who just come up with the seed funding for this parade? That's the paper.
Yes, but that is a small percentage of the amount of money that is required to run the parade.
I ain't saying no. I agree with you.
So that's my point. It is a partnership. And listen here. I am not saying that only persons that rush are capable of managing or handling Junkanoo. I'm saying that they should. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that there are other people who can't do it. I'm saying that the people who create that parade are the ones who must have a direct say in the direction of the parade. If I can put my hand in my pocket and I can put down $3,000 to make sure my 2 costumes are done this season, and 5,000 other people doing the same thing, then you can't come telling me how I supposed to wear my costume and where I supposed to wear it. That don't belong to you.
The reality is them 5,000 people you talking about ain't got no input. There's only a couple of people sitting around the table who got the input. So them 5,000 people you talking about ain't got no input.
Right, but no. But theoretically they do. That is a systemic issue that the JCNP has to deal with. Theoretically, every Junkanoo Junkanoo on that parade has a voice around that table, theoretically, because those people sitting around the table represent their groups. They are not there to give their personal opinions. They are there to give their group position.
And you think
so
that happening?
theoretically,
You think that I asked that bald head fella right on the screen there next to you if that's really what's going on? Ask him.
that's why I said it's a systemic issue. It's
But
the way the system is
Ronald,
operating.
Ronald,
How many times have you heard him say that the decisions at the table are not being carried back to the groups?
Yeah, but Ronald,
have you heard me say that they need to implement systems that will ensure that the group rank and file know? You heard me say just last week that they should not make any decision on the spot until the reps have had a chance to go back. You heard me say that last week.
Two things. The groups need to hold, a lot of the groups need to hold their leadership boards in place. They need to hold them accountable for a lot of stuff that happens in the organizations. That's two. That's one. I think from the government standpoint, a lot of people see what happens, quote unquote, on the back end. Or sorry, I would say closer to the parades. Like Joseph mentioned, the policing of the parades, the cleaning of the parades, the seed money to give the parades. But what they don't see is that $30,000 is not even a quarter of what it takes to get materials to produce those parades for those groups.
If I wasn't out there in my costume,
it's not only that. Yeah, but see, these things come.
No parade without us.
And that's the thing.
A partnership.
And that's what is not what is being uncovered. It's not that we don't appreciate them or the money that's being sent. It's just that there's groups, organizations, people, participants, Junkanooers contribute to this parade handsomely. And we cannot be taken into like, okay, just because they provide on the back end as to what we see closest to the parades, that our participation in it, our I would say injection of cash is just overlooked. Let me throw this curveball just as we get ready to wrap up. The JCNP some years ago, remember the government allowed them to have the welcome center on the dock for a Junkanoo museum. If they had charged every tourist coming through there $2 to come through, they would have had in excess of $5 million every year to run their parades. It never happened. And so the question is, to what extent does the government want the JCNP to be financially independent? It could have happened a long time.
I know that scenario well. I know that one well.
All right. So all right. So you know what I'm talking about. And so there are a lot of things. But my final comment, Dwayne says he agrees. The seed funding alone that the government gives cannot produce a Junkanoo Summer Fest. It's time that it keeps jumping around. I can't see the rest of it.
It's times that we, the private citizens, separate ourselves from the government and its small funding and create millions in funding to create a government hands-off parade.
Amen.
And it's also time. It is also time that these very same Junkanoo organizations we are talking about become more creative and realizing their own source of funding.
Amen. No two ways about it. Lord Ronald Sims, it's 11:31.
I don't know who was Ronald or Bastian.
Ronald is the one who always running us off at 11. Ladies and gentlemen, you have helped to make this such a wonderful, wonderful show. I do hope that you have enjoyed it as much as we have. I do hope that your thinking process has been stimulated and that we are all being provoked to think about what is best for Junkanoo. Next week, we hope to start the shack runs. We want to hear what's going on in the different groups as we head into Bay. And so, dear, final words. We out of here.
Listen, there's a lot of work to do, but we can do it.
Amen. Amen. Ronald Sims, thank you so much. You always add so much to our show. And ladies and gentlemen, likewise for you. And so, until next week, this is Junkanoo 242. It's all about you, wherever you are in the 242 and the world. And until next week, let everything we do prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that we are all proud
Proud
to be
to be
Bahamian.
Bahamian.
We'll see you next week and stay safe on Monday.